Kind of screwed up the intro. Let's try that again, guys.
Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. So you guys have no idea. I thought I was live for like 3 minutes. Like I'm literally running through this show and I found out, dude, you're not live. We had a little snafu. I thought I pressed the live button and I didn't. So kind of like that's what kind of threw me off in the beginning of the intro of the show. But anyway, welcome to another edition of True Crime Strategic, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be watching the closing arguments for the Lindsay Clancy case. Now, her case is currently being deliberated on by the jury. All right. To my knowledge, they have not come back with a verdict yet on whether Lindsay is going to be guilty or not guilty of murdering her little children. Lindsay's a very interesting case because there's a certain segment of women who are sympathizing with her. And I don't think that they're sympathizing with her necessarily because they want to support a murderer. I think they're doing it because there are topics that are being discussed in this case that a lot of women can relate to, like depression, like postpartum disorder, like the stress of being a mother, taking care of young children, and possibly feeling like you're not getting the correct amount of help from your spouse. And these are things that people can relate to. But I personally think from the evidence I've seen so far that Lindsay is an unrepentant murderer. Do I believe that she suffered from some form of mental illness? Sure. Do I believe that she was taking a lot of medication? Absolutely. But as has been testified, all of these different cocktails of medication will not make you into a psychopathic murderer that will deliberately strangle your children with rope. I'm sorry. Well, that's my opinion, but we'll see what the jury has to think about it. I want to actually go through the closing arguments so we can see what the jury listened to as they work on their decision. So apparently the jury has been sent home for the evening, so they'll begin redeliberating tomorrow. But that's even better. The fact that we're not going to get a verdict tonight, I think it's even better that we take this opportunity to look at those closing arguments, the summation of the case, and hopefully we can get a glimpse into what the jury is dealing with right now. Guys, I appreciate you guys immensely for joining me today. Please hit that like button, support the channel. Once again, hit the like button, support the channel so we can get into the algorithm and the show can be shown to a wider audience. Let's get to it.
Let's take you live to that courthouse right now where the closing arguments in Lindsay Clancy's murder trial are beginning.
Incredible. Through some of the toughest, most gut-wrenching things that any person can be subjected to, and I think I indicated that, sadly, jurors carry this struggle with them for years. And the service that you have performed, I have never seen before. You have listened to evidence. You have been fair. You have been objective. You've listened to the judge's instructions, and you've carried them into your heart, consistent with your oath, which is a very, very solemn oath. Passed between government and Lindsay, who has placed herself on her country, which country you are, as a jury of her peers. When you consider what's at stake here in the sense of what we've been dealing with, Cora, Dawson, Kelly. She knows loss. And that's why we think of Cora, Dawson, Calvin. For a minute. They are the victims of this case. They are the victims of the horrible, horrific act that has been laid at your feet as jurors to decide whether or not Lindsay is guilty. Beyond a reasonable doubt, as His Honor instructed you and will instruct you, what that means, that standard of proof that we as citizens in this country are so blessed to have, proof beyond a reasonable doubt before the government charges any citizen with a crime. I don't care how many cops you have in here, how many DAs are sitting here, how many people are sitting in the front row, and they're all going to sit there and be proud of this prosecution. I told you in the opening statement that this is a prosecution that has ripped the soul out of this girl. This is what they had. This is their family. How does this turn into this? How? Because of the damn medicine and the lousy medical care that she got. You can troop as many paid experts as you want to come in here and tell the jury, oh, well, she didn't say that she heard voices inside her head. She said she heard voices from outside her head. She said she was making chicken McNuggets. There was a bowl on the sofa. She wasn't making chicken McNuggets. She said something as I think and I muse.
All right, so I'm not going to stop it as much as I usually do on this channel because we're not reacting to another content creator's stuff. We're just listening to closing arguments, and we want to hear the nuance in what he has to say. But this is something that's been on my mind. And I guess I don't know what I would do if I was in a person's position like Lindsay Clancy, but I know what my soul is telling me I would do now. So I do leave room that so that I'm not a hypocrite, right? God forbid something crazy was to happen to me. But if you killed your children, you wiped out your whole family. Why would you fight so hard for your freedom? Why would you even want to be on this earth? Like, regardless of what, so let's just have a thought experiment, right? Let's say that the drugs made her do it, right? And she's really a good person and she's not psychotic or evil or whatever, and it's the drugs that did it. What I would still know that it was my hands that did that to my babies, and the least I would care about is what time you give me, because wherever you put me, my days are numbered. What life could you live? You know, so it makes me look at people like her sideways, that they fight so hard for their freedom, even though they know what they did. It makes me feel like they're not really remorseful, because she wants to be free, ladies and gentlemen. She wants to not pay at all for the lives that were lost, her own children. She's saying, let me go free. It wasn't my fault. It was the drugs, you know? It's like, wow. Like, for me, regardless of whether it was a drug-induced psychosis or not, you still did it. Why fight so hard? You know, that's just weird to me. And maybe I can think that way because I'm not in her position. Like I said, I'm giving myself room that maybe I'm wrong so that I'm not a hypocrite if ever, you know, something strange was to happen to me, you know? Because it can happen. Weird things can happen to anybody, really. You know, life is just like that. But geez, man, she wants freedom, but her babies is dead by her own hands. One of the kids ran away and she chased the kid down and killed him. He tried to get away. She chased him down and killed him with her own hands. And now she wants freedom. Anyway, let's keep going.
And I try real hard to tell you what my opinion is, that this woman was acting in her right mind when these children were killed. So, when you consider the evidence in this case, you consider the person who is in front of you, who is the defendant, as the government refers to her, and as His Honor will will than likely tell you, even though a person is a defendant in our system of justice, you don't have to defend against anything. The government has the burden of proof. When the DA decides to charge someone with a crime, he has the burden of proof. His assistants have the burden of proof to prove, number one, that Lindsay is guilty of this offense beyond a reasonable doubt, and then prove, number two, that Lindsay, at the time, killed her children, was not suffering from a mental disease or defect that caused her to have a lack of substantial capacity to appreciate, to know, to realize that what was being done while she was in a psychosis. But we'll laugh about that. It's just another woman. I guess it's just going to make an excuse. She's depressed. GAD, general anxiety. Give her a couple of pills, she'll be all right. You know from looking at the objective evidence in this case, this young lady...
You know, I've dealt with psychotic people, I mean, probably more than most people, because I'm a cop. Every time somebody's psychotic, they call the police, right? That's a big issue in America now, because sometimes when police are interacting with psychotic people, very rarely, when you look at the amount of times that police deal with psychotic people, very rarely it results in death or physical harm. And so now we want to change the whole system, even though police have these interactions millions of times a year and nothing negative comes out of it. The person gets help, they go to a hospital, they get stabilized, and the police are the ones that's with them every step of the way. I just want to clear the air with this. There is no correlation between psychosis. Let me rephrase it. I'm not going to say there's no correlation. What I want to say is that psychosis does not equal. That's a better way of saying it. Psychosis does not equal homicidal thoughts or actions. Psychosis does not equal homicidal actions. I've been with 6'5" psychotic people, 4'11" psychotic people. And they didn't want to kill me. They didn't want to hurt me. And in my whole career, whenever I've seen a violent psychotic person, they've always been trying to be violent against themselves. They've never wanted to hurt other people. They were trying to hurt themselves. Now, does that mean that there's not homicidal psychotic people out there? Of course there is. We see them on the news every day. We go over some of those cases. This might be one of them. But people should not excuse her actions by saying, oh, you don't know what postpartum psychosis is, because then you would understand. So what are you telling me? Every single woman that has postpartum psychosis is homicidal against their own kids? Nah, that's not a thing. This is a very rare thing. And unfortunately, sometimes when you do something wrong, you got to pay for it. When people go crazy and push people in the train tracks because they're in the middle of homicidal psychosis, and they push people into the tracks in New York City and other places like that, we still put them to jail. I've never seen a case like that where a person was sent to a psych ward. They always get sentenced to state prison. I'm so sorry that this happened to you, Lindsay. I'm so sorry that maybe you experienced psychosis, but lives were lost and somebody's got to pay for it. That's called justice. We will give you mental health treatment in jail. Let's keep going.
Believe me, I don't have many clients like that. This young lady did nothing wrong in her life. She was a nurse, a daughter, a wife, and a darn good mother. You can see from the objective evidence, you can see, and you'll have all the exhibits for you to look at, and you can see by looking at these photographs, which you will have in the jury room. You can see the Facebook postings. You can see what she indicates about, for example, I just randomly grabbed this one. A son, my prince, that they would have you think she killed him first, cruelly because she didn't like him. That is repulsive. So she's living her life with Pat, her kids, having a great time that summer. Life is good. She had to go back to work. In an opening statement, I told you, I said, watch the evidence. Watch the manipulation. Because that's what this case was built upon originally, and how it developed as the case.
See, this is the thing. This is where you guys don't understand me. And that's why I love this chat. I'm going to read this comment out. Norma RN X 30 years says, I guess she's been an RN for 30 years. Thank you so much for being a supporter of the channel. Appreciate you. Says, agree that mental health patients still need to be held accountable. I've been a victim of a psycho. However, strategic, no man can place a judgment on any female hormonal changes in any situation. I'm not talking on female issues, Norma. I am advocating for children. I don't care about your female hormones. I care about dead kids that were strangled by their mother. And I'm not yelling because I'm mad at Norma, because I love Norma. Norma's a supporter of the show. I'm yelling for the people in the back of the room. Don't you forget that there are dead children that are dead in a basement because she strangled them. Don't forget that. When we're handing out toxic empathy cookies, make sure you save some of those cookies for those dead kids. Never forget that when you come on True Crime with Strategic, Strategic cares about the kids. That's my priority. Let's keep going.
Progress until it's in front of you. And how does that happen? Well, in the very beginning, going all the way back to when the first 911 call that you had to suffer through was made, you could hear in the voice, Pat Clancy, the horror, what he had obviously experienced. You can see from the evidence that's before you the injuries that she suffered. You will have in the jury room the exhibits that indicated the extent of the injuries from, I don't have to go through all of them, the extent of the injuries to slitting her throat, to slash.
And the one last time, I'm so sorry. I'm going to go back. This is why I love this community, because you guys know I'm passionate, but you're not snowflakes. You know that Strategic is passionate, but he still love you. Look what RN says. Norma says, understood what you're saying. However, hormonal effects were crucial in this specific case. Love you anyways. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't agree with me. I don't necessarily, I do agree with her a little bit. I understand what she's saying, and I understand that this stuff matters. But to me, what she did to those children matter more. But we can agree to disagree and still support each other. And that's what I love about this community. I just want to throw that out there, because on YouTube, you have people who are so flaky. You disagree with them for 2 seconds. Oh, F you, Strategic. No, we got a mature audience here that understands me. I'm passionate about the kids. Let's keep going.
Her wrists, throwing herself out a window, blood all over the bedroom floor, window open, screen slashed. Oh no, the screen wasn't slashed, my bad. That's what she thought. It's called a delusion. She was in psychosis when she thought that. Probably right here, sitting here, believes that she slashed the screen. She didn't. Subjective evidence. And why did we spend almost a week showing you the extent and the severity of that suicide attempt? The reason that we had to do that is because they were arguing that it was a fake suicide. Dinky little cuts, no bleeding. She didn't mean to kill herself. She's going to throw herself out the window, I guess, and slide down the house. Remember that one? Hanging off of the window. Sliding down the house, and Lindsay screwed up. And she hurt herself bad. You know that's not what happened. You know that she made, the testimony of Dr. Velkovich, that she made a very, very significant suicide effort, slashing her wrist, slitting her throat. And isn't it interesting when you consider objective evidence? Googling slitting a throat. Googling suicide. Googling drugs. Googling side effects. Googling ketamine treatments. Googling all of these drugs. Googling the effects of Tufts medications. Lorazepam, sertraline, hydroxyzine.
Well, my question is, why did she take all those drugs? She's a nurse, right? Big shout out to Rockman 9150, $5 super chat. I said 50. $5 super chat. Rockman always drops super chats. He probably gives like that amount every week. He's an amazing guy. So I appreciate you, Rockman. He says, just saying hello. Thanks for the live strategic. Anytime, man. Thank you for joining me, man. She's a nurse, right? Like, if she's seeing all these drugs, man, because apparently she was on a boatload of drugs, man. That for one moment, I will not pretend like that did not exist. You know, why didn't she, like, because I mean, I got people who can't even read that I've encountered who, like, they manage their own medication. Like, yo, they got me on this. And I'm going to be honest with you, it doesn't work out for them. Because they're like, yo, this psychotic medication makes me fat. I don't want to be fat. I just stopped taking it. That's a big thing. People gain weight with these psychotic medications. Another one is my brain is cloudy. I can't think. I'd rather hear the voices than walk around in a stupor. But they just stopped taking it. Like, why did she continue to take this medication, this cocktail of medication, if it's making her feel all these different ways? This is really interesting stuff here.
Lorazepam, buspirone, trazodone, fluoxetine, zolpidem, myrtazine, clonazepam, quetiapine, diazepam.
And then Tina said that because I haven't, you guys seen what I've been doing. I've been going hard on all these other cases. So I've been following this at a distance. So I haven't seen every single piece of this trial. I wish, if there's nothing else going on, we would have covered this from soup to nuts. But Tina's been following. She said that, you know, she wasn't able to commit to a medication plan. And when this incident happened, she only had 2 drugs in her system. So how we square that away? But anyway, let's keep going.
And it goes on and on and on and on and on. You have the chat, you have the descriptions to see. And obviously, she wasn't consuming all of these at the same time.
He just admitted it. She didn't consume all these at the same time.
Because one thing this kid did was try to do what she was supposed to do. She took the drugs as she was told to take them.
Yeah, but you just said she didn't take all of those drugs. So what exactly did she have in her system when she killed those kids? Because it matters, because this whole case has been she had 1,000 drugs in her system. That's what people talk about on social media, blah, 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 blah. We're watching the closing arguments, and even her defense attorney has admitted she did not take all of those drugs. So what exactly did she have in her system when she killed those babies?
She was religious in her obligations to take care of her health. She went to Dr. Tufts when she was a young lady living in a house with a husband and her babies, respected nurse, wife, friend, mother. Should have kept drinking, huh? That was a big deal, wasn't it? Remember that? We're just going to assassinate this young lady in every which way we can. Remember that evidence? I was concerned. She was drinking 5 drinks a day. She was worried about, you heard the evidence up to 2019. What are they talking about? She wasn't drinking while she had her kids. She wasn't drinking while she's breastfeeding. She would have a couple of beers with her friends. That's bad. We put that over in the bad pile. Right here. We spent all that time showing through Dr. Lapasada's testimony that this was a legitimate, dreadful, horrific suicide attempt. You think about this beautiful young girl throwing herself out a window. That's a quarter. I don't know if you ever played pool. I challenge you to tell this jury why we spent a week showing that she committed, your witnesses.
Counsel, address the jury, please.
Said, their witnesses, serious
All right, he just got admonished by the judge. Let's go.
suicide attempt. Remember that? Tried to kill herself. So now they'll back off on that, and they'll agree. A serious suicide attempt. That's why I say, watch the evidence. Watch the manipulation. Remember the argument with the bands. She took the bands out of the bag, put the gloves on. Talks to Dr. Laposada on the Zoom. Slams the bands down, out of the paper bag. Does the movement of the bands and yells at Laposada and says, wrapped. They were just wrapped. They weren't knotted because you gotta get Lindsay tightening the band, right? You gotta hold it. You gotta hold it for a minute. You gotta hold it for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. That's why she needed the bands not knotted. And then she said, it's like this. And they sprang open. Remember that? Dr. Laposada said, yeah, I saw what you did. And she walked away like if the glove won't fit moment. Quarter number 2. What did Patrick Clancy testify to? You heard his testimony. He indicated clearly, unequivocally, they were knotted around the necks of those children to the point where he had to struggle. And it's your memory, not mine. If I say something you don't recall, forget it. It's what you remember the evidence to be. But
Yeah, if I came home and I seen that with my babies, I'd have to be retired to tell you what I would do. If I told you what I'd do, I'd be an idiot to say that on the internet. You can judge me if you want. I can only imagine what that man went through, but I tell you what, that man is a better man than me. You're a better man than me. That's crazy. Wow.
clearly, I would suggest, he struggled to get it off of Dawson's over his head. And a police officer saw through the window. This is horrific stuff. But it's objective, and it shows the manipulation. This government, this prosecution is a mess. They would take their evidence and argue to you that she did not tie a knot and walk away, because as Dr. Laposada said, you're talking about 4 or 5 seconds, so somebody passes out. No, they got to have the 4 minutes, and that's not what the evidence shows, is it? So, as we move on, Lindsay's in the hospital. And this whole thing about conversations, and she's talking to people, and the kids are in the basement. Her throat was crushed. You heard the 911 tape. You draw the inference, whether or not there's a conversation about where the children are. I tried to kill myself, the kids are in the basement, all that. You determine whether or not that was something that could be discerned. And the police investigation, because as His Honor indicates, you know, there are two things here. Number one, proof beyond a reasonable doubt that she's guilty, and number two, proof beyond a reasonable doubt that she was not suffering from a disease or defect, as His Honor instructed you at the time of these killings. Those are the two things they have to prove. And when the police charge somebody with a criminal offense, they have an obligation to investigate At the end of the day, when you're talking about, well, we've got the charges are before the court, you can sit there in the court, you can feel proud of yourself. Did you do a good investigation? Do you even know what this, you'll see the photograph of the cup and the powder. What is it? They don't even analyze it. Did they take pictures? Did they analyze? Did they test the blood? Did they do lousy investigation of this?
I'm not really feeling this defense attorney. You guys know this has nothing to do with the fact of what the mother is being accused of. It's just his style is a little off with me. Like he's dropping his bombs, and I see what he's trying to do, but his demeanor and his voice, and because remember, this is theatrics. It really is. It's theatrics. His demeanor, his voice, and his delivery isn't matching the experience and the genius of his defense. He's a talented attorney. Don't get me wrong. He's a talented attorney, but I don't know if it's his old age, not to age shame or something, but you do, you slow down, your energy level is different, whatever. And he's just not selling it to me. I feel like if you take his script that he wrote with all his decades of being an attorney and you give it to somebody else, maybe they'd be able to sell it a little bit more than him. Am I the only one that feels that way? What do you guys think about that? Like for some reason, what he's doing is falling flat on me, if that makes any sense. I'd like to get your feedback in the chat.
Well, that's okay because she was guilty and they put her in the hospital and she's the evil woman that killed the 3 innocent kids. And they're going to stand there while she's chained to the bed, paralyzed. You heard testimony from Dr. Zeisel. They weren't little fluffy cuffs that were securing her to the bed. They were handcuffs, not the medical treatment. Medical treatment would be, like restraints, so you don't do whatever, pull lines out and things. We're talking about when the big men were in there with their guns and their badges and they're sitting outside the door, and they're going to make sure that Lindsay Clancy, paralyzed, chained to the bed, doesn't get up and run away from the hospital, I guess, and they just have to suffer their way through. I guess I worked 8 hours, I had another shift I had to work that night. This is the treatment. And what's important about that is what kind of treatment did this young lady get from the healthcare providers. Remember Meg Collins? She came in this court, Meg, you might remember. Tall woman, short blonde hair, squared away. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. She was not only a nurse taking care of her in the hospital, she advocated for her. She stood up for her patient. She protected her. During the pandemic, you know that Meg Collins was in that emergency room when half of us were hiding at home behind our computers, hoping that we're not going to die in a week, drinking our Chardonnay at 11 o'clock in the morning. Meg Collins was in a hospital treating people and advocating for them. That's an example of what nursing is all about. Not having attitude, not treating somebody like they're to be disdained. And what's even worse, she comes out of a coma. She is intubated. She has had major, major surgery of her broken, crushed spine, vertebrae, rib, thyroid. Massive, not my words, medical records, massive testimony, blood transfusion for the blood loss. And when someone, you heard evidence, comes out of surgery, they're delusional. You've had anesthesia. You've had think about having a tooth pulled. Think about the trauma that somebody has when they're in a hospital bed laying there paralyzed, unable to feel the lower half of their body, but able to feel with the meds and the pain medication and everything else, the damage to the spine. And then the hospital has a meeting. Remember the other doctor, I think it was Dr. Shah, the Indian woman?
Yo, if my wife tells me she feels like she wants to hurt our kids, I'm not letting my kids be alone with her. I'm not even going to be alone with her. I'm going to put her in the car and drive her to the best hospital I know. It's 60 miles away. It's called Bellevue Hospital in Manhattan, where all the crazy people go. After that, when you get stable, we're going to have supervised visits for everybody. Even if we go on a date, when we go on a date, we having a supervised visit in the police station. We're going to be having steak tartare in the waiting room of the police station. I need visitation with me, visitation with the kids, visitation with everybody until I get like 5 doctors to say you all right now. Like, how this man left this woman with those kids after she told them she thinks she want to hurt them is beyond me, ladies and gentlemen. That's nuts. But he did, and hence we are here. Let's keep going.
Wicked impressive. She was amazing. She had the facts. She was able to tell you exactly what she observed. She was able to tell you what they were doing to treat Lindsay. She treated her like a human being. She was a damn good doctor. Came in here and told you all of her observations about her and told you one of the things that ultimately that they were concerned about is they had to have this big confabulation about, we're going to take her off the, the health care process. They had to have lawyers. They had to have people there. They had to have her signing documents. They had to determine whether or not she was going to be signing something to have her parents take over because Pat was not going to be responsible for her care. Lawyers, cops, handcuffs. Do I need a lawyer? Write that down. Where are you? You're out there somewhere. Write that down. Boy, she wanted a lawyer. That's a bad thing. Must be guilty. Let's put that in the guilty pile. That's why she said that, in a delirious state, dealing with all of these people about that issue. But what's even more nefarious, is you think about it, as I said, your eye on the ball because of the manipulation. Paul Zeisel, big deal. I'm friends with the guy. You heard evidence that I called him. I was with Pat a night or 2 after this incident in the bedroom with all the blood. I was with Pat taking evidence that the police didn't even see in their thorough investigation. And I was able, as you know now, certainly, to grab this. Why wouldn't the police have grabbed this? They're all empty. You can see when they were prescribed. You can see what they are. You can see what she took. You heard the testimony. It's tough to take a handful of pills. Remember the guy saying that yesterday? Tough to take a handful of pills. Well, no. They were crushed. Oh, shit, they were crushed. Okay. Where's the residue? Where's the crusher? Where's anything? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Great investigation, guys. So you have a situation where they leave this behind. They don't even look at it. One of them, and again, your memory not mine, one of them testifies, well, they might have looked at it and saw it and just didn't seize it. Seriously? They go down to the kitchen, they seized every pill bottle that was in the cabinet along with the books.
I was about to say that because you can't just seize medication. You need a warrant for it. And it has to be a part of your search warrant. So, because I remember one time I had a case where we went in and then we saw a ton of medication and then we saw electronics. We went to the judge. It was a sex trafficking case mixed in with an ex crime. It was a really crazy case. It was in the news and everything. It was in the news. It was a big case. Anyway, I went in there and we tried to get a search warrant. The judge gave us everything but the electronics. And we said, listen, we think that the guy is recording when he's abusing people and selling it on the internet. And then we go to the apartment and then here's all this medication and cameras in the bedrooms, hidden in like the corners of the bedroom. So then we had to go back to the judge and get an amended search warrant to include cameras and medication. So everything that you get from a search warrant it has to be what's on the search warrant. You can't just take stuff. So it appears that they did have medication on a search warrant. They just didn't take that medication. So that makes sense because he cleaned it up. But initially, just because you see medication there, you just can't, even if you think it's probative, you can't just take it. Anyway, let's keep going.
Speaking of books, one of the things that they found, smoking gun. Good moms have scary thoughts. Hallelujah. Put that in the guilty pile. We're going to put this in a plastic bag. We're going to show it to a jury so they know that this young lady had scary thoughts. Turns out that Jolada gave it to her. So you have this evidence. You have evidence of sleep aids. You have evidence in the bag. Because obviously this stuff was just thrown in there. It wasn't in a bag when I saw it inside this thing here, and we seized it, and we held it for 3.5 years. Anybody care about it? No. You had evidence that the police knew that I had it. They could have it, they could look at it, they could analyze it, do whatever they wanted. They didn't have to. This here, you heard evidence. This is a little wish jar that they bought on their honeymoon in Hawaii many years prior to even having kids. And when you look inside it, you see that there's all sorts of little folded up pieces of paper. Some of them are dated, some of them aren't. They go all the way back to 2017, 2018, 20. And they reference her wishes to have healthy kids, her wishes for her kids to be successful.
People are talking about the lady who's covering her mouth. She's the stenographer. She's using, I forgot what kind of device it's called, but it's like new technology where they speak something in there to like capture the people's words. I don't know how it works. I'm gonna have to Google it because I'm curious now. But she's basically creating a court record right now. We're in the 22nd century now. Yeah, we're in the 22nd century, baby. All right, catch up. All right, we on the M5 now. Excuse me, M6 on the apples. Okay, let me stop. Big shout out to Sorcerer's Stone, $2 suggestions. Could they at least take pics of the bottles? They had a search warrant to take medication. He cleaned it up, so they could have taken all the medication if they wanted to. You can take pictures. You can document the scene as much as you want, but you can't remove stuff that are not on a search warrant. But they did have medication as a part of their search warrant because they collected medication from a different spot. But then again, even then, though, it depends on where the scope of the search, where did it say that they could search in the house, if there's multiple people living in the house. Because if, let's say you have your parents living with you and your parents stay in the basement, you can't take the parents' medication if it's not on the search warrant. The search warrant might say, or will usually say, all medication with this person's name on it. So if some of those medications didn't have her name on it, they couldn't take it unless the search warrant said all medication. Then you have to prove to a judge that you need to collect all medication because maybe the person was getting medication with other people's names on it. It's complicated stuff, people. Just know that the Constitution doesn't allow cops to just do whatever they want. Everything has to be approved. But apparently, I think they had a search warrant for medication. They just didn't take that medication, according to the defense. Let's keep going.
Her wishes to have a good birth. Second time around, hoping for a good birth, worrying about the child with the, what do you call it, I forget, where they rub the thing like. This woman lived for her kids until she had the pleasure running into Dr. Tufts of her 2 months experience. And after she ran into Dr. Tufts, it was not a wonderful life anymore. And what did Dr. Tufts do? And everybody laughs at me. I said to television, okay, I know more drugs off somebody. That's another repulsive allegation. I think the evidence is pretty clear. There's no basis for that at all. She was scared. September into October of 22. Young, vibrant, hardworking, you've heard all this, not my words, witnesses' words, holding goals for herself. Hardworking nurse, hardworking mother, would take the kids to the Kingsbury Club. That's another thing. Sounds pretty snooty, doesn't it? Oh, they're at the Kingsbury Club. It's a swimming pool and a place where you can exercise. Watch the manipulation. Because now you've got a situation where you've got manipulation with the Kingsbury Club, you've got manipulation with these other items here, and you've also got manipulation of Paul Zeisel told Lindsay what to say. Say that you're hearing voices. Think about how ugly that is. Because you know, beyond a reasonable doubt, even though we don't have any proof, we have no burden. You heard from Sheila. Remember Sheila? The woman that's the reverend or whatever, she's the chaplain at the Brigham and Women's Hospital. She didn't know Lindsay from anybody that night when she came in all broken up. And she told you that she continued. She was there when Lindsay came out of, was extubated. She was there when Lindsay was going through her treatments. She was there for 8 days before Paul Zeisel even knew Lindsay existed. But they would be in here telling you that Lindsay saw the psychologist because the lawyer went and got the psychologist to go and speak to her. And then you have these guys here, the cops. They're having meetings, talking about it. They're talking about it. Must have been the shrink. Must have been the psychologist. Must have been Zeisel. He's the guy that told her what to say, and he did not. How can you ruin a man's reputation with the career that he has had and still has, thankfully, to put him in a position where he tells a broken young woman who is vilified by our society for killing her 3 children, that he goes in the hospital and tells her to say she heard voices. Disgusting. So now you know that she told Sheila first that she heard voices. Command hallucinations. She didn't say command hallucinations. I heard voices. It was a male voice. Told me, you had these other guys that came in. The government's rebuttal witnesses. Very, very impressive. Very, very impressive. The first 2, Mac, put him aside. You've got the other doctor as well. So Mac is, why he was freaked out when I asked him where he stayed, and the other guy looked at me like his eyes were bugging, why did I ask where he stayed? Whatever. Point is, they don't see her for years. Years. And why? The other guy, Halburn, I think it was Halburn, he had to wait until maybe it was the last name, I forget. They had to process his payment from the DA's office through the school. Who cares? If you have an obligation to try and be objective, to try and even look as though you're competent and objective, why would you wait for so long? Why would you go with another guy? Why would you take this young lady and have her in a room and question her, one right after the other? Wouldn't you like to sit there and be questioned by Dr. Mack? Boy, that'd be an experience for 3 hours, 4 hours. And the other guy is going to pepper his questions at her as well between that period. And the next day, she can take tests. And then go back at it again with Mack and with Halbrun. And she was cooperative. She was pleasant. She was friendly. She answered the questions, and she owned what she did. Huh? She never ran from anything. She's gone through evaluation after evaluation after evaluation, recorded. You'll have the video to look at as they're questioning her, as she's sitting there in her wheelchair, hour after hour after hour, 3 years after this incident, but that's okay. They're busy. Paul Zeisel was there, literally, in Brigham and Women's, because I called him, because I was asked to represent this young lady. You heard evidence. I saw her in the hospital. I saw her laying in the bed broken. I saw her laying in the bed practically dead. I reached out to Dr. Zeisel. And I asked him, please, can you talk to this woman? Concerned, as he testified, for her mental well-being. What kind of demons, what kind of horror was in her mind as she lay there paralyzed and hurting and medicated, swollen, tubes, pops, chains. He went and talked to her. Big deal. I asked him to go. You judge the credibility of a person. Did Paul Zeisel have the ring of truth when he told you that he's there out of a humane feeling to try to help this young lady? And he's been by her side for 3.5 years.
All right. I want to go over to the prosecution. You guys know how I am. I don't have the patience of Grizzly. Grizzly, that's why she's one of the greats, man. She will sit here and listen to all of this nonsense. And I'm not saying this nonsense like he's doing a bad job. It's just, it's so flat. It's so unentertaining to me. So I want to go over to the prosecution and see what the prosecution has to say. We could come back to the defense. It's at the 32-minute mark for the defense. I want to fly over to the prosecution and see what they have to say. All right. This is an hour and 48 minutes. So we would conceivably be here for like 3 hours if I cover every single thing, soup to nuts. All right. But this guy is, he is flat, bro. Oh my gosh. Oof. Lord of mercy. Let me give him an oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh man. It's like you're in a college lecture. Oh, let's keep going. Damn, what he got, like, he got pills on the table? He taking ecstasy or so? Oh, my God. Oh, gosh.
Oh, my God.
You see, he
There's
just
no dispute
picked
that Lindsay Clancy was suffering from mental illness.
All right, let's do it.
And that she tried to kill herself. There's no dispute about that. All of the evidence that you've heard, even the experts that the Commonwealth put before you, say that she was suffering from mental illness and she tried to kill herself. That's not the issue in this trial. The issue is whether, at the time she killed Cora, Dawson, and Callan, she knew the difference between right and wrong, and whether she could conform her behavior to the requirements of the law. This case is not about our mental health system or how it treats women or what's in the DSM-5 and what's not. That's a distraction to get you angry and passionate about an important issue, but an issue that's not on trial here. What's on trial here, what the issue is here, is what Lindsay Clancy did the night of January 24th, 2023, and what her mental state was at the time. And you can use her psychological history and records, the treatment records, to look at both before and after she killed the kids, to look at how she got to that point, what her thought process was, what her motivation was. But it's not the system or the DSM or any of that that caused her to strangle her kids. In fact, she had more access to treatment and care and support than a lot of people do. She had health insurance that covered multiple doctors, multiple specialty programs, treatment at South Shore, at Mass General, her stay at McLean. She had prescription coverage to cover the different trials she went through. She had support at home. She had 18 weeks of maternity leave with the opportunity to
18 weeks of maternity leave? Oh my God, what kind of contract she got? 18 weeks of maternity leave? Oh gosh.
extend that as much as she needed, which is excellent, which is what all women should have.
Right.
But she had that. She had support from both sides of her family, hers and Patrick's. The two older kids, Cora and Dawson, were in preschool 3.5 days a week. And she had the nanny, Elaine, who helped with Callan 3 mornings a week. And she also helped her with housework and with food prep. This wasn't a woman suffering from a lack of care, a lack of resources. She had an abundance of help, an abundance of care. She had all of that.
I like where the prosecution is going with this, because she's kind of counteracting a lot of the excuses that people are kind of like putting out there on the internet. Even some people who are in the chat, God bless them. You know, it's okay that we don't have to agree on things. It's like, what else are we supposed to do? Because there are women, many of those women are some of you women who are defending her, who were not privileged enough to have the help that she had. Who people are talking about his husband. Some of you guys don't even have husbands. Some of you guys were abandoned by the men who promised to be by your side. Some of you guys were dealing with that postpartum while also dealing with poverty, while also dealing with underemployment or no employment. She has all of these resources, all of this assistance, all of this support structure. What else is we supposed to give her? What else are we supposed to do to help her? And I like this strategy. Let's see if it lands. You know, she's taking off right now. She's flying right now. Let's see if she can land this plane. Let's keep going.
And more. And, you know, this doesn't mean that she wasn't struggling, that she wasn't dealing with mental health issues. She was. She had depression. And whether that's from bipolar or major depressive disorder or postpartum depression, it all boils down to she was depressed, right? And she was trying to deal with that, trying to get help for that. But it wasn't the fault of the providers that she was struggling with this or that she wasn't getting better. They were doing the best they could. You have the records, you heard the testimony. They were doing the best they could with the information she provided them. And that wasn't always accurate information. That wasn't always the full picture. And they were doing the best they could with her level of cooperation and compliance with the plan. Take her medications. You know from the records and from the pill bottles what she was prescribed and how she was supposed to take those medications. And you know from the pill bottles what she actually took. And sometimes those two things didn't align with what she told her providers, what she told Patrick, what she told her mother. You take the Zoloft, for example. The prescription was for one 25 milligram pill a day for 7 days, and then to go up to the 50 milligrams after 7 days. She told Dr. Tufts that she took the pills as prescribed for 7 days, went up on the 8th day to 50 milligrams, and that's when she had the insomnia and the other side effects and symptoms. She told Patrick that she took the pills for 7 days and they had no effect, so she called Dr. Tufts, who then told her to increase the dose. Well, you know what she told Patrick is not accurate, because the pill bottle says, take it for a week and then increase it. That was the plan from the beginning. That wasn't the result of a phone call to Dr. Tufts. And you know what she told Dr. Tufts isn't accurate either, because only 7 pills were taken from the bottle. So that leaves you two options. Either she took the medication as prescribed, 1 pill a day for 7 days, and then didn't increase it, which she says is what caused the side effects and the insomnia, the side effects and the insomnia, or what she did was not take it as prescribed. She didn't do it 7 days and ease into it and then increase it. She either missed a dose or increased it early before she was supposed to. Either scenario is not good. She knows as a nurse the importance of following the instructions of your medications. She knows how important it is to follow the plan and do what's on the bottle and do what your provider tells you and to give that accurate information to your provider. She didn't say, I went up a dose, went up to 50 too early. Maybe they could have adjusted that and tried the 25 milligram for longer and eased her into it. But no, she told her that she did what she was told and then went up and had these problems. So you can see that in a lot of the medication she has. You have the pill bottles that were turned in by Patrick, and a lot of them don't even have many pills missing from the bottles. Some of them have none. The Buspar prescription, the first one, there's only 2 pills missing. The second prescription, no pills missing. The Lamictal, she never took those pills. at all until the night she tried to kill herself. So there's a lack of compliance there, a lack of follow-through, a lack of communication with her providers about what was happening with her and how she was taking the medications. And defense wants you to believe that this is a woman who's begging for help and willing to do anything and everything her providers tell her to do to get better. And she was asking for help. She wanted help. She wanted to get better. But she wanted to get better on her own terms, doing things her way, the way she thought she should do them. And as a nurse, she knew that's not the right way to approach it. She knew that an accurate medical history, accurate information about your side effects and symptoms, what your thoughts are, that's important for your providers to know. And she didn't do it. And it seems that the reason that she's not necessarily fully compliant and she's doing what she wants to do is she has this desire to be herself again. She just wants to go back to who she was. And she wants it now. And she doesn't want any side effects. She just wants to be herself again and wants it now. And that's understandable. That's relatable, to want to get that magic pill that will fix you immediately and you can go back to being yourself. But she knew that's not how it worked. And you know that's what she was thinking, because in the searches on her phone, she's searching for things like, which antidepressant works the fastest? How fast does Wellbutrin work? And she's searching all of these different medications for the side effects and symptoms, some of them that she never even discusses with her doctors. And, you know, again, it's relatable that she wants to get back to where she was, but she had discussions with her providers about how these medications work and that it takes time for them to get into your system and it takes time for them to work. She even texted her mother about that, about how she knew that she had to be patient, that it took weeks for the amitriptyline, for example, to get into her system and worked. And she knew all of this, and she couldn't be patient. She couldn't wait. She wanted it faster. She even told Dr. Tufts, it's a note in the records, that she knew the problem was that she wasn't focusing on one provider and following one plan. She knew that going from doctor to doctor, practice to practice, South Shore to MGH, to different programs, not the best way to deal with the situation. She said it in her own words to Dr. Tufts. You need to stick with one provider and stick with one plan to see if it works.
All right, real quick. Just want to show some love to people, showing love to the show. Big shout out to Sorceress. Once again, $5 super chat says, I have a lot of health issues. I live in Massachusetts. I would never ever leave here. I'm extremely grateful for the healthcare quality here. She has no excuse. I actually have to go out to Massachusetts. I just caught a case that's going to take me to Massachusetts. So I might be out there. I went out to Massachusetts last year for a case. I don't work for the federal government, but obviously if somebody's victimizing my municipality and go home, we got to go to them. We have to still follow up. We can't just say, hey, you ain't here no more. Go screw you. It's not how that works. So looks like I'll be coming out to Massachusetts. Big shout out to Bella Noor, who is now a recruit member. Welcome to the family. Norma RX is celebrating 15 months as a recruit. Thank you so much for your support, Norma. Jem McCarthy World is celebrating 3 months as a recruit. And Sister Karen 777 celebrating 9 months as a recruit. Thank you so much for being members, guys. You are appreciated. Let's keep going.
And she actually turned down help from at least 2 locations at various points. We talked a lot about the women and infants records, and you know, you don't have to believe what I say about them or the witnesses say about them or defense. You can look at the records themselves. Page 9, it says right there, Patrick was the one who said over-medication was the issue. Not the doctors there, not the people evaluating her. What they put was depression, RO, rule out adverse medication effects. That means they have to look into it to see if medication's a problem. But there's a difference between an adverse effect, a symptom, or a problem with a medication, and being over-medicated, taking too much of a medication or taking too many at one time. There's a difference there. And Women and Infants never says she was over-medicated. What they also don't do is turn her away. It's not that she went there and they said, can't help you, go away. They told her, it's in the records, based on the onset of her symptoms, they weren't sure if it was postpartum or peripartum. They saw she had an issue. They wanted to help her. It says there, we offered her. They offered her 3 programs. They offered her the inpatient medical management program. They offered her a partial hospitalization program for
Okay.
general mental health.
Okay.
And they offered her an outpatient program. It shows they put a lot of thought into that, into offering her this care. When they gave her 3 separate options, considering she's a young mom, maybe she doesn't want to be away from home, but we'll give her the option of being in the hospital and getting her medications right. But we'll also give her the option of the partial hospitalization where she can, be here during the day and go home to her kids in the evening. And then that third option of being an outpatient and being able to be at home with her kids and come in for appointments. It was very thoughtful of them. It was very well planned out to give her these 3 options. And it's kind of the exact opposite of just turning someone away and saying, go away, we can't help you. And her response, I'm going to talk to my provider about it for guidance. And she goes to Dr. Tufts. She sees Gelada at some point. You look at the records, she never discussed those options with them. She told them that women and infants turned her away and said she didn't qualify for the program. She didn't discuss those 3 programs that they offered her. So basically, they give her this offer of help, 3 different forms of help, and she says, no, doesn't want to do them, and doesn't discuss it with her provider. And also that first time she goes to Mass General, to the emergency room, they offer her a bed at McLean, and she turns it down. She wants help. No one's saying she doesn't want help, but she's making these decisions and doing these things that aren't helping her get help, that are turning away help, because she wants the help in a certain way, in a certain time frame. And, all during this time, between September and December of 2022, she's interacting with friends, with family, teachers, gym staff, the nanny, people at gymnastics, interacting with them in public spaces, in public ways, driving her kids around, all throughout that time, able to know the difference between right and wrong, able to conform her behavior to the law and to the requirements of society, and interacting with others and presenting herself as a functioning adult.
Hold on real quick. People are talking about the Vanity Fair reporter. Just want to let you guys know what that's all about. Apparently, there was a Vanity Fair reporter who was reporting on this case inside of the courtroom, and they were observed winking and smiling and just being inappropriate. And so Vanity Fair removed their credentials, and they're now barred from the trial. So that's that whole Vanity Fair thing. Let's keep going.
A functioning mom. You know that she knew the difference between right and wrong during that time, because she had those thoughts at the beginning of December of harming her kids. And she told Patrick and her mother about them. But who she didn't tell is important and very telling. She didn't tell a single provider, not Tufts, not Gelada, not Jennifer McAllister, not Dukes, no one at McLean, no one at MGH, no one at South Shore. Didn't tell any of them. And why? Because the police might take away her kids. That's a rational thought. That telling mandated reporters that you're having a thought of harming your kids, that they might be taken away for their safety, that's a rational thought. And it also shows she knew it was a bad thought, a wrong thought. Because you don't think someone's going to take your kids away because you're thinking something positive or neutral. It's because it's bad, it's because it's wrong, it's because it's against the law. So she knew that it was wrong. And she was able to conform her behavior to the law because she didn't tell those providers. She went in and met with them and talked about what she was experiencing.
Why do you folks want the father to go to jail so badly? On this channel, we just go after dudes, and we go after the moms, we go after the dads, we go after the parents when they fail. But it just appears. Thank you so much, son. It appears he brought me my snack, nuts and cheese. It's like people want the father to be blamed for her actions so badly. Like, were there critical mistakes? Absolutely. you know, she's having these psychotic issues, or well, she's saying that she's having these thoughts and stuff like that. You know, is he a great dad? Probably not. Is he a good husband? Probably not. But how is he supposed to go to jail for what she did? Now, tell me that she had prior instances where she hurt the children and he's aware of it and it's documented, and yet he still allowed her to be alone with the children. That's different because we have a history there. But how is he supposed to now be criminally liable for what she did? And he had no tangible warning of it other than something that she said. Make it make sense to me. I'm not even going against you. I'm opening up the dialogue to understand why some of you guys are thinking the way you're thinking. Maybe I could be swayed. So I'm coming to you saying, hey, you can change my mind. Make it make sense. Let's keep going.
And talked about her depression. And not only did she not tell them, she lied to them. They asked her, are you having thoughts of harming others? Do you have homicidal ideation? She told Tufts no. She told Gelada no. She told Dukes no. She told Goodhart no. Every day at McLean, she said no. At MGH, she said no. So not only is she hiding it, she's lying about it. She's controlling her behavior. She's controlling the presentation she presents to her providers.
So listen, the prosecutor's kind of answering my questions. The floor is still open. I want to hear from you guys what your perspective is. But the prosecutor is saying, listen, she's not even being honest about the true state of her mental health, at least according to what the defense is trying to present, that she was psychotic. She's lying about it to her doctors. Is it not outside of the bounds that she was not very clear to her husband about how she felt? Maybe one day she's like, oh my God, I feel like I want to hurt these kids. But he didn't take it like she literally meant like she was going to hurt. I mean, you know, I grew up in African-American community in the hood. It's not uncommon to hear a woman say, you know, I'll put you in this world and I'll take you out. Does that mean that she literally going to kill a kid? If all the mothers I've heard in Harlem saying that to their children actually took their kids' lives, there would probably be no black kids in Harlem right now. Sometimes people say things. I've heard the best mom tell a kid, oh my God, you're getting on my nerves so much. I'm gonna hurt you, or something like that. It's not good. People shouldn't talk like that with their children, but it's said. So what if that's how he took it? Like, she's frustrated, she's angry, she's saying something she doesn't mean. How do we now equate that to, hey, we got to send this guy to prison for the next 20 years because he's an accomplice? I don't know, man. Make it make sense to me, guys.
Then we get to her being admitted to McLean. You know, up to that point, all of the drugs she's taken from September through December, they weren't given at the same time. The most she ever had at one time was 2 to 3 medications. And usually if it was 3, that third medication was the Benadryl or the hydroxyzine that's like Benadryl, or the Ativan or Valium as needed for anxiety. But most of the time it was 2 medications. And the way they did those medications, you heard from Dr. Satoff, a man who's examined thousands of patients with psychosis, who's treated women with postpartum psychosis, who's treated women who have killed their children, that man who apparently has no expertise. You heard from him that the medication trials were reasonable and rational. She tried a medication, it didn't work, or they had side effects, they stopped the medication. They tried something else. They tried a different combination. And unfortunately, with mental health, there's no blood test or CAT scan or MRI that you can do that says, well, you have bipolar or you have schizophrenia. It unfortunately doesn't work like that. So what the providers have to do is rely on what the patient's telling them. Hope that information is accurate. Rely on what they're observing about the patient and make a diagnosis. And then based on that diagnosis, have a treatment plan. And every patient reacts differently to medication. One patient could do fine on it, the next not. So they have to do that trial and error process, and it's normal, it's typical, It's reasonable. And that's what they did for her. And even if you believe that the number of different medications she took over that time or the combination of those medications affected her negatively, after McLean, they were out of her system. Some of them had been out of her system for months. Zoloft, she stopped in October. Other pills she stopped in November or December. And that last one, the Seroquel, that she really had a bad reaction to, is out of her system. The only medication she's on leaving McLean is trazodone for sleep and Valium for anxiety. And that's it when she leaves there. And why does she leave there? She wants to go to Corey's birthday party. And that's relatable, that's understandable. She wants to be that mom again who can throw her daughter a party and enjoy it. It's completely understandable why she would want to leave, but she also knew she wasn't there. She knew how she was feeling. She knew she was depressed. She knew she needed help. But she wanted to be that mom she was more. And there was nothing McLean could do to keep her there. She said she denied suicidal ideation. She denied homicidal ideation. She said she wasn't hearing voices or seeing anything. They saw the entire time she was there no signs of psychosis. In fact, every doctor she saw, from Tufts in September all the way through Tufts at January 23rd, none of them saw any signs of psychosis ever. So they're all wrong. All these different doctors at all these different practices, they're all collectively together wrong. That doesn't make sense. But she shows when she's leaving McLean, no signs of psychosis. And they even give her a task to do to see if she can manage her mental health outside of the hospital. Make an appointment.
All right, real quick, guys. I know this case deals with a lot of mental health drugs and stuff like that. But apparently, if we say some of these names, it messes us up in the algorithm, and it messes up the exposure of the show. So that's why Obi's kind of going crazy in the chat right now and like moderating people. It's not that you're saying anything wrong. It's that you just can't use these drugs names, apparently. So please try your best, guys, to just self-moderate or spell it out with the dashes like OB is showing inside of her example in the chat. We're not trying to stifle your ability to talk about what happened to you. We want to hear about that. This is a place that's safe for people to express themselves, especially people who have been victims and who have experienced negative things. We've always been a community that's willing to listen and willing to be a place where you can have that outcry, where you can share those stories. But you got to do it in a way that YouTube respects it, unfortunately, not strategic. I am a free speech fundamentalist, man. I wish we all could say whatever the hell we want to say, but at the end of the day, we're on a private platform called YouTube, owned by the company Alphabet. We got to play by their rules, guys. So please excuse us for having to moderate you. Just please do it the way that we can. That is the acceptable way by YouTube, and you'll be able to express yourself however you want to. Let's keep going.
Pick a doctor, make an appointment. And she does it. She decides on Dr. Tufts. She makes the follow-up appointment. She gets the documentation and gives it to them, showing she can manage her mental health. They have to let her go at that point. She's there voluntarily. There's no grounds to keep her if she's not showing she's a danger to herself or others. So they let her go home. And at home, again, all throughout January, she's showing her ability to know right from wrong and to conform her behavior to the requirements of the law in all the activities she does in January. First, there's the birthday party. She's throwing the birthday party. She's monitoring the kids, making sure, typical mom birthday party stuff. Everyone's eating, getting cake, singing happy birthday. You saw her in the video. She appeared happy and smiling, normal. Everyone that interacted with her said, seemed a little tired, but okay. The Museum of Science. You have that video. The Museum of Science in Boston can be crowded and overwhelming on a good day. And she's there with 3 kids under 5 with her husband. You see her monitoring them, caring for them, doing the exhibits, showing them what to do with the exhibits. If you watched that video and you didn't know who the Clancy family was, And we asked you, pick out the woman who is depressed. Pick out the woman who wants to kill herself. Pick out the woman who's about to kill her kids. You couldn't pick her out. She's completely calm. All her behaviors are typical and normal because she's able to control her behavior. She's able to be suicidal and feel those things, but control her behavior, control her thoughts, and present that image to the world. She's able to do it at the Cape Codder as well. Similar scenario. She's able to watch the kids when Patrick goes to brunch. She's able to watch the boys when Patrick and Cora go skiing on the 16th. She's able to interact with the Carneys on January 22nd. And yeah, they both initially said she was quiet, but then they both admitted she was always kind of quiet. But she was able to interact with them, chat with them in the kitchen. Seemed okay.
I'm going to drop some gift memberships to the Patreon, guys. Stand by. I want to show you guys some love for hanging out with me. This is a long video, and I appreciate you. Let's get it going.
In between January 7th and January 21st, her mother never comes to the house to intervene. Her sister, a licensed social worker, a mandated reporter, never comes to the house to intervene or help, never makes a report. And they're in contact with her every day, texting with her, calling with her almost every day, and never see any signs that they should be concerned or worried or intervene. And you have those text messages between the defendant and her mom. And her mom, obviously, was very attentive, very caring, asked very pointed questions. How are you doing? How are you sleeping? How are the medications? Obviously, a very concerned, loving mom. How does Lindsay answer? I'm getting a little better. I'm sleeping better. She said the only time her sleep was interrupted is if Cora had a bellyache or one of the kids was up. But she's doing better every day. She's sleeping better. She's feeling better. She still says, I'm not myself. I'm not where I want to be, but she's moving.
Just drop that membership. I'm going ahead and pin it to the chat. Hit the link. Get your free membership. We got 20 slots available. Free gift membership to the Patreon. It's that good. That's why I'm giving it away, because I know that most of you guys are going to keep going once you see what we're doing over there. It's a really, really, really good platform, and we're trying to do special things over there. Go ahead and do it. Let's do it.
Moving in the right direction. And we have that text from her mom the day she leaves on the 22nd, headed back home. I'm glad to see you're doing so much better. Now her mom now wants you to believe that she lied to her, that she wasn't doing better and she was just trying to encourage her. But there are so many things you can say to your daughter who's struggling with mental health other than lie to her if you want to encourage her. You know, you've got this. Take it day by day. I'm here for you. We're going to get through this. But she wants you to think she lied to her when she said she was doing better. But you know that wasn't a lie. You know that she was doing better, or seemed to be, and that her mom said, I'm glad you're doing so much better, because Patrick said the same thing. He said she was doing better in January. Every day was better. The 24th was the best day. They had hope, because that's what she wanted to show them. The only person during that time that she gave even a little glimpse of maybe she wasn't doing that much better was Dr. Tufts. And she told Dr. Tufts that she was feeling depressed, which is why Dr. Tufts prescribed the 10 milligrams of amitriptyline a day. Very low dose. And then she told Dr. Tufts again, still not helping. And so Dr. Tufts raised it to the 20 milligrams. Again, a very low dose, a dose a child could take. And that shows how cautious and conservative Dr. Tufts was being in the treatment of this patient who had had those interactions with medications previously. She was being cautious and conservative and acting with care for the patient by slowly increasing the medication. But even with Dr. Tufts, she still denied having a suicide plan, denied wanting to hurt anyone else, denied voices, denied visual hallucinations, showed no signs of psychosis, all the way up to January 23rd. Nothing.
Dang.
And if you look at their journal, you look at this journal, that
So like we have a pattern here of her not communicating what she's feeling and what she's experiencing to the very people who can help her. So it's kind of going along that narrative that the prosecution is trying to paint, which is, what else are we supposed to do as a society, right? We want to have empathy for her. Obviously, she's going through something that most women and men could not understand, right? There's a lot of women who have never experienced postpartum. So it's not even just a woman thing. It's a subsection of women. Most women don't experience postpartum, or if they experience a little bit of postpartum, it's not enough for them to be able to identify with somebody who is experiencing postpartum. And of course, no men, regardless of what circumstances may exist, no man will ever be able to experience postpartum, right? So we want to have empathy for you. We want to understand that, hey, something's not right with you. You're going through something unique. You're going through something distressful. But the narrative is, what else are we supposed to do? Because you had access to so much help, and the access that you had, you did not properly take advantage of it. According to the prosecution, you were not even honestly participating with the help that you had. That's the prosecutor's narrative right now. You had the help. You appeared as though you were using it, but you weren't really using it. You were not being honest with the very people who can help you. What else are we supposed to do? Let's keep going.
defense counsel showed you. She's very detailed, excuse me, about when she took medication, what she took, the amounts she took, what the effect was for months, starting in October and going all the way up to January. And where it stops, January 18th. Someone who's been so meticulous about everything all the way up to January 18th, and it just stops. And it's as if she's decided she's done trying. She's decided that it's too much and she doesn't want to do it anymore. And so she just stops keeping track of the prescriptions. And then
All right, real quick. Big shout out to, I hate her name because I want to change her name. A girl named Unlucky, but she's lucky to me. I want her to change that name to Lucky. A girl named Lucky. $2 super chat says, for luck, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. A girl named Lucky. All right, we're going to change her name, whether you want to change it or not. Now, somebody said, well, and once again, we appreciate people sharing with us, like OG Wendy. MD says, yes, but mental health care is not linear. I can have really bad weeks and okay weeks. What I tell my doctor one day can change drastically the next day. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. For somebody who deals with some mental health challenges that you're living with, I appreciate you. But once again, that's not what the prosecutor's saying. The prosecutor's not saying that she had bad weeks and good weeks, or that she reported what she felt on that day and that it may have changed the other day. I'm not saying that this is exactly how it really worked, but this is the prosecutor's argument. The prosecutor's argument is that she was not honest with her practitioners at all. That's the prosecutor's position and narrative. Now, I'll also say this, that somebody else said in the chat further down that she was a nurse for F's sakes. And that matters because let's say I want to go out and turn out to be an axe murderer tomorrow. All of the training and knowledge that I have as a detective, I'm going to use that as I try and embark on my new career as an axe murderer / serial MPD psycho serial killer, like David, like D4VD. Please go check out our D4VD shows if you're new to the channel. We break down that MPD psycho was his inspiration for why he dismembered Celeste. Back on this show. I'm going to be informed by all the training I have as a detective to aid me in committing those horrific crimes. The same thing goes for her. She is informed. She can't walk away from it. It's a part of who she is, her training as a nurse. And her training as her nurse informs her about the importance of history, of medical history, of being honest with your practitioner to get the proper help. So She's not like the average person who's living with a mental illness. She is literally not only defying common sense by not being honest about what she's experiencing, she's also denying her training. She's denying a part of who she is as a professional. So there's another layer that she's overcoming that you guys who may be or may see yourself in her that you don't have to overcome because you don't have that same experience that she has. So please keep that in mind, that we're not just dealing with regular Joe Schmo who's not being honest about the side effects of these medications or just in general how their mental health is making them feel. We're dealing with a professional who understands the gravity of what can occur if you aren't honest with your practitioner about what's happening with you. Let's keep going.
Get to January 24th. Everything that happened that day, every person she interacted with, every situation she was in, shows you she knew the difference between right and wrong, and she could conform her behavior to the law. The doctor's appointment first thing in the morning. She's able to drive there. She's able to interact with medical professionals. She's able to seem absolutely fine and normal. And this is a doctor who's treated the kids since Cora was a baby. This is a pediatrician who's known the family and has known Lindsay for almost 5 years. A woman who's trained in recognizing the signs of postpartum depression. She told you she looks for flat affect, she looks for teariness and some other things that she told you. She saw none of that. She was able to control herself and interact with her in a perfectly normal, concerned mother way. Able to get home from that appointment. She plays with the kids, she takes them outside, she's sending those messages and photos to her mom and to Patrick, basically saying, look, this is a good day. I'm having a good day. Everything's good. I'm getting better. Here's proof. This is what I'm doing. You start to see the planning at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. When this is on her phone, you can see her search for Miralax, Kids Miralax at 4:02. And then a little while later at 4:13, you see her search for takeout from 3V. And then immediately after, she does the Apple Maps search to see how long it takes to get to 3V. Well, defense wants you to believe that, she was checking that because she didn't want him gone for too long. She wanted him home. She was in distress. If you're in distress, don't send him anywhere. Make food at home, have him cook, get delivery, get DoorDash. Go to one of the other restaurants that Patrick mentioned that were 2 minutes down the road. And she didn't have to look up on Apple Maps to see where this restaurant was. You heard from Patrick, they had been there at least 3 times in the months before. She had lived in that area for 4 years. She knew where it was. She knew generally how long it would take to get there. What she needed to know was how long specifically on that night it would take to get there. Because she knew she would have a limited amount of time to do what she wanted to do. And what she had decided to do was to kill the children and then kill herself. And so she needed to know, not generally, but exactly how much time will I have. And then obviously sees that that's not enough time. So then she searches CVS. And not only does she search CVS, she calls them. Calls them and asks them if they have Kids Miralax, and they say no, but they have Pedialax and one other medication. And then she asks, is it in stock? Because she needs to know not only what they have, but is it in stock? Because she's adding to this errand that she's sending Patrick out on. And she has to make sure she's not interrupted. She doesn't want that call at 5:33.
That seems premeditated to me, that she's giving this guy a large shopping list so that he spends enough time out of the house that she can actually go and murder her own kids. 3 kids, guys. 3 kids. One of them tried to run away and she chased him down. Chased him down like a dog and strangled him. 3 kids. That's premeditated. What part of the psychosis makes you say, I'm going to send him out on a shopping list because he has the strength and the ability to stop me. He's a man. He's stronger than me. He's bigger than me. He could stop me. So I'm going to send him out on a shopping list. I'm going to make it long enough that he stays out there for a while I kill these kids. That seems very premeditated to me. Let's keep going.
She wants him to go to CVS and have the medication there and get it and then go on to 3V so she has time to do what she needs to do. So that's why she's calling to see what they have and make sure it's in stock. It's 11.
Jennifer Smith hit her with the hood. She said she was on demon time. That's some Harlem language. She was on demon time. I agree. Oh, boy.
Oh, my God.
Let's keep going.
Level of planning there and thinking and decision making that Dr. Satoff referenced. And then after that, she texts Patrick, you know, it's been a long day. Can we do 3V? And he's on board with that. And she's like, okay, check out the menu. Let's get on this. And he asks her what she's getting. She tells him the Mediterranean Power Bowl. He says he's getting the pork belly risotto. 5:10 p.m., she's calling that order in. She's talking to the hostess. She gets the order accurate. She is able to answer questions about how she wants her food.
Yeah, you guys understand, like, you're going through psychosis. You are literally delusional, all right? Your thoughts are scrambled. You're imagining things that aren't there. You're in distress. You're paranoid. You can't, oh, I'm suffering from psychosis, so I'm able to put my finger on my nose and balance on one foot and tell you the quadratic equation and order all this stuff and have a coherent conversation with my spouse and balance this strategic eye sheriff hat, and I'm going to kill my kids. It doesn't work that way, guys. It doesn't work that way. That's not how psychosis works. That's how cold-blooded murderers work. There would be other indicators that she is having a psychotic moment if, in fact, she was suffering from psychosis. She's on the phone with people. She's having regular conversations. She's planning things out. She's giving people assignments. She's delegating things to people. And then she killed the kids. Make it make sense, man.
Able to recall and give Patrick's phone number and his name as the person picking up. And then Patrick's leaving to go get the food. And as he's leaving, the kids are in the living room on the couch eating. The defendant's in the doorway near the basement door. And she says to him, oh, basically, oh, by the way, can you go to CVS? Acting like it's this last minute thought, like, oh, by the way, can you get this? And not something that she's been planning for.
So let me ask you a question. Like, when a person is, because somebody said that's exactly the way it works. When they feel they have to do it, they have to do it. I totally disagree. Just off of what I've experienced in my professional life, dealing with people with mental illness. But I'm listening. I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor. But my question is, if somebody who's experiencing suicidal ideation, are they psychotic? Is every single time somebody decides that they want to end themselves, is that psychosis? When somebody is giving their stuff away and they're like, listen, you know, everything's fine. I'm great because this is the moment, right? It's kind of similar to when somebody does that. They usually are showing some form of euphoria. They look very content. They look as happy as they've been in a very long time. Of course, we know if anybody has those feelings, please call the hotline. I hate to talk about this stuff, but I'm making a point here. Would you classify a person in that particular situation as psychotic? Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, you pondered that. Let's keep going.
An hour. She knew about the Pedialyte and she knew about 3D and she knew all of that before she even asked him about dinner. But it's like, oh, can you go to CVS?
And so the thing is, the answer that says possibly is not a supporting answer for somebody who thinks that she's psychotic. Possibly means in some instances, sure. In other instances, no. The same thing could be said about this. do you know she truly was psychotic at that moment? Because there is instances where what she did could be construed as psychosis, but there are also instances where it's not. I would dare say that the vast majority of times with the scenario I gave you, there is no psychosis. It's a person who's suffering from depression or from a lot of trauma, and they're either dealing with depression or they're trying to find a way to escape the pain and the PTSD of the trauma. Normally, we don't correlate that behavior and those actions with psychosis. They're not delusional. They're not seeing demons. They're not talking to ghosts. They're not imagining imaginary circumstances that don't exist. They're dealing with real pain, real trauma, and they're trying to find a way out. The problem is they're choosing the wrong way out. And yet, they do exactly what she did on the day that she took those kids' lives. The difference is she didn't take her own life. She took the kids' lives. Functional, having meaningful conversations with people, handling business, handling affairs, coherent thought, and then boom, tragedy. Just keep going.
And get kids Pedialyte. And he, of course, is like, sure, I'll get that. And he heads out the door at 5:15. And you know that's the time he leaves because he says to her, yeah, just text it to me. And that's such a normal kind of interaction that we have in your common sense and life experience. You're headed out the door to run an errand and someone in your home says, oh, while you're out, could you get me X, Y, and Z? And you're like, yeah, sure, just text it to me. Because you don't want to get there and be like, oh, what did they want me to get? It's such a normal interaction, right? Can you get this for me? Sure, text it to me. And he heads out the door and she texts it to him at 5:15 p.m. And then he goes to CVS, even though she's told him what to get and they have it, he still makes that call at 5:33. She calls him back at 5:34, and then he heads out to 3V and then comes home. And when he gets home, puts the things on the counter and it's quiet. It's quiet in a way that a house with 3 kids under 5 should not be during waking hours. So he calls out to them, no answer. He goes to the basement door and opens it and yells down and no answer.
Oh boy.
He closes the door. He calls her phone, no answer. He goes upstairs and is able to unlock the door and see the blood and see the window open and go down to her. And when he goes down to her, she's no longer actively bleeding. He doesn't have to put pressure on any of her wounds. And he says to her, what did you do? And her response is,
all right, hold on here. Because people are saying that this might be too much for them. And you guys know we don't care about views on this channel. We care about justice. We also care about you. So before she goes into the actual crime, I don't know what level of detail she's going to go into the crime because it's my first time watching it. You might want to consider checking out if this is something that's going to cause you some type of mental harm. Okay? I'm okay with that. I don't care if I go from the 250 people who are watching this right now down to 150 people. I don't want to hurt anybody, all right? So please know viewer discretion is advised, all right? She's about to go into that crime. The other thing is people are kind of like devising how much time. I think OB put some stuff out there, how much time he was gone. That matters not to me. What matters to me is the time she took to get him out the house so she could kill the kids. Whether he's out there for an hour or he's out there for a couple of minutes, she did not want him in the house. And the amount of time he was gone was enough time for her to do the deed. Hence, 3 kids are gone. So the mission was accomplished. It's not the amount of time. It's the effort that it took to coherently have him leave the home so that she could incoherently take these children's lives. All right, we're going to get back into this. I gave you your viewer discretion.
Kill myself. And then it's, where are the kids? In the basement. It's not, I heard a voice, I was compelled to do this, I didn't want to do this, go help the kids, they're hurt, they're in the basement, go save them. No. It's, I tried to kill myself, and the kids are in the basement. And defense wants you to believe that conversation couldn't have happened because of how she sounded on the 911 call. But you heard from the doctors, people can deteriorate over time. When he first gets there, she's able to talk to him. And as that progresses, she's losing the ability to talk. And there's nothing in the medical records about her throat being crushed or her thyroid being crushed. You can look at that. Her thyroid was bruised, her vertebrae were broken, but her throat wasn't crushed. She had the ability to make sound and to communicate. And if you listen to the 911, he's talking to her, and then he's answering the 911 dispatchers about what she said. So even if we can't hear her clearly and we can't understand what she was saying, he could. You know from all of the evidence that you have, putting aside the experts, but all the evidence you have in terms of crime scene photos and videos and the witness testimony and all the medical records, you know how she killed them, where she killed them, what time she killed them, and the order that she killed them in. Even without what she told the doctors about the order, that's something you can infer from the evidence. Because you know, in order to bring the kids to the basement and strangle each one of them, and then come upstairs and get a knife and have a phone call, and then go upstairs to the second floor and either take handfuls of pills or crush them, however she did it, take the pills, and then cut herself. And it's not just 3 cuts, it's the hesitation marks, and then the cuts themselves. And then you know she bled in a couple spots for a little while, because you heard from Sherry Crook how the pooling in front of the mirror is someone, basically the blood dropping down, and someone there for a period of time, and then over closer to the window, the same thing. So she's bleeding in front of the mirror for a period of time, over by the window for a period of time, and then she goes out of the window. And whether she dove out or climbed out and slid down, whatever you think that evidence shows from the shingles and everything you've seen, whatever happened, she goes out of the window and she's on the ground. And by the time Patrick gets there, she's no longer bleeding. So for all of that to happen in that short amount of time while Patrick's gone, she had to have started killing the kids immediately after he left. Now, defense wants you to believe that it was after the phone call, that after the phone call, she heard the voice and killed the children. But there's a few things about that don't make sense. First is what she told Dr. Satoff, that when she gets the call, she's at the fridge getting chicken nuggets out of the fridge to make dinner. You heard from Patrick, when he's leaving, Dawson is sitting on the couch eating chicken nuggets and green beans out of a bowl. There's the crime scene photo of 2 bowls on the couch. Yes, the pink one seems to have some vegetables in it, but there's the blue one there as well. And Patrick saw Dawson eating the chicken nuggets and green beans. So why would the defendant make that up? Why would she say she's doing that during the phone call? Because if she's already killed the kids because of a voice and being compelled and it being against her will and she's like a puppet, then she can't get a call and miss it and then call the person back and have a conversation and then hang up. A puppet can't do those things. Those are decisions and choices and actions that she's controlling. So she has to explain away the phone call because her behavior and her ability to have the phone call don't make sense if she's being compelled by her voice, if she's not in control. And you, further on that, you have the phone. You have the flights climbed. There were 2 flights climbed. You can see, you have Ian Whiffin's report. You can see there were 2 flights climbed. The first ends at 5:33. So it makes sense that she has killed the kids in the basement and she has come up the stairs, and at 5:33, she's in the kitchen and she's getting the knife. And then Patrick calls. Everything she's done, everything from the research to making sure what they have, to telling him to get it, to making sure it's in stock, all of that, and he still calls her, he still interrupts her. And then she gets the knife and she goes upstairs, and she's at the top of the stairs by 5:38. So the phone calls from 5:33 to just before 5:35. So if you want to believe that the voice happened after the call, and the killing of the kids happened after the call, between 5:33 and 5:38, she doesn't go down and come back up and come back up and come back up. There's nothing on that phone about that. And there wouldn't be enough time for her to bring those kids down to the basement and strangle each one in 3 minutes. You heard from the doctors, and Dr. Laposado included, it could take up to 30 seconds for each child to go unconscious. And then strangulation would have to continue for another 1 to 2 minutes to cause death. And Dr. Laposado wanted you to believe that the band could just stay there around their necks by themselves. But you have the bands. They're exercise bands. You pull them, they resist, you let go, they snap back. I had to hold them up to show her in circles like around someone's neck.
So what she's saying is there was a lot of maliciousness in the asphyxiation of these young kids. Like, she had to maintain the pressure in order for it to continue to do its evil wares, or rather her evil wares, because the workout bands are not inherently evil, obviously. She had to literally commit to this act in order for her children to die. Because the moment she would just release pressure just a little bit, the bands would then release its grip on the kid's neck, and then maybe the kids would be able to breathe again. We actually just covered that stuff. I had a refresher for the last 3 days. I haven't been taking cases. I've been in training in the last 3 days. And I think we talked about it yesterday on a live. One of the segments, or one of the training segments, was asphyxiation, was strangulation. And we talked about how, like, in many instances, these abusers, the male abusers, because most of the time it's men doing this horrific stuff, they'll choke their female DV victim to the brink and then let go, and then she'll come back. And we watch video of that happening, where the victim will be choked, she passes out. If she's choked for just a few seconds or a few minutes more, she will die. But because he let go, the oxygen now flows again and the brain wakes up, and you see them wake up in a stupor like, what the hell just happened to me? Oh my God, you know? So that's what would happen to these kids. If she would have let go of her grip just a little bit, they'd snap back out. There could be brain damage. I'm not saying that nothing happens. You're back and everything's fine. You can get brain damage. You could be hurt severely for the rest of your life due to this asphyxiation. But if she'd have let up just a little bit, those kids probably would have snapped back. She had to maintain that pressure. Maintain that pressure until the life was removed from each one of them. That takes intent. Remember, let's give deference. Let's go with some of you guys' theory of psychosis. She had 3 opportunities to snap out of that psychosis. She had 3 opportunities to snap out of that psychosis. 3 opportunities. She could see the petechiae in their eyes, the discoloration in their faces, the ligature marks on their necks when she was done with the first kid. She could see the skin overlap over the rope. This is things that are unavoidable when somebody is being strangled to death. She saw what the outcome was of the first child whose life she took. And then here comes the second one. Same thing. Petechiae, bloodshot eyes, capillaries bursting in the eyes, capillaries bursting in the lips, ligature marks in the neck. I've seen it with my own eyes when I worked in the prison system, when guys would hang up and their neck, fit guys with 0 body fat, yet the skin in the neck folds over the rope. Thank God each time we were able to save those individuals, so I didn't see anybody lose their life, but they came to the brink. Some of them to the point where they're seizing up because of what they decided to do to themselves. Second child, she saw that. Still couldn't snap out of the quote unquote psychosis. Third child runs away from her. She chases him down, hunts him down, chases him down. Same outcome. Still didn't snap out the psychosis. Psychosis or not, there's a price to pay. We demand a price be paid. And that price is justice. Let's keep going.
And when I let go, they expanded. They don't stay around someone's neck on their own. You have to pull them. And you know they weren't knotted. Patrick never testified that they were knotted. So I'll take this one. He testified that he didn't have a clear memory, but he remembered that they were possibly looped. And I asked him, like, when you're tying your shoe, that first loop before you do a bow? And he said, yeah, kind of like that. So not knotted, not tied, but even his memory wasn't the best. You heard him on that call. And that's why we had to play the call for you, because you could hear him. You could hear when he found each kid. And you knew that he had the phone with him when he found each kid, because his voice, it never sounded like he was in another room. It always sounded so painfully right there. And so you know he's holding the phone and he's not untying knots, and he wouldn't have had the time to untie knots in that short amount of time. And then you have the fire.
I don't know what she's going to say, but like I told you guys, I've seen this with my own eyes. When they're saying I had to untie it from around the neck, it's oftentimes you're kind of like peeling it off of the neck. I've seen this many times, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big thing in the prison system. I've seen it more in a prison system than I did being a beat cop, when that's what was my assignment before becoming a detective. In fact, I think I've only seen it one time. It was, believe it or not, it was a nurse, which is crazy. And that was a really sad one because she left her daughter. And there was like a whole custody thing. I don't know. I don't even want to get into it. The bottom line is that's the only time I saw it as a police officer. I've seen it half a dozen times as a correction officer. And so there's no untying a knot. It's almost peeling it from around the neck, because it gets so deeply embedded in the neck when somebody is either taking their own life and it's their body weight that's pulling them down, or somebody is literally somebody's taking your life by wrapping the cord around your neck. It's crazy.
Firefighters looking in the window, seeing him with Dawson, and he's not untying a knot or unlooping something. They say they see him in an unwinding motion, unwrapping. That's why you had to listen to the 911, to show that she did stand over their limp bodies and strangle them for 1 to 2 minutes after they went unconscious. Because those weren't knotted. They weren't tied. They don't just stay there on their own. And even if you wanted to believe that at 5:38, she goes upstairs and puts the phone on the bed, and then she goes down and kills the kid.
All right, Tina May has a question. First of all, Christina Williams said, this show is so interesting. I'm happy that you're being entertained. I appreciate everybody who joins me. This is a huge community, YouTube, and the fact that you folks take the time to watch my show, I really am humbled, and I do appreciate it. One day we'll be recognized by the algorithm. Like I say all the time, it's not the YouTube community, it's the algorithm. The algorithm is not pushing my show. When people find my show, they enjoy it. And so I'm happy to hear that you're taking something from it. Tina May has a question. She says, stop for a second, because Tina May is the boss. She says, does it matter if these bands were knotted or looped? No, it doesn't. She took them and put them around her kid's neck and yanked them till they were dead. And yes, I don't think that it really matters. I mean, some people saying she's lying, they were knotted. It doesn't matter. The knots, the ties, the loops didn't find themselves. They weren't like a snake that just crawled up behind the kids, up their back and around their necks. They were put there by a human, and that human was the children's own mother. It doesn't matter what state the rope was in. It is what was done with the rope that matters. And I think it's quite evident that the ropes were used to strangle the children. Let's keep going.
And she does everything. 5:38 to just after 6 p.m. because he's making the call to her at 6:09. There was not enough time between 5:38 and just after 6 p.m. to kill all 3 kids, to get the knife, to take the pills, to cut herself, to bleed, to go out of the window, to stop bleeding, and Patrick to get there. In 20-odd minutes, it's not enough time. So you know she killed those kids as soon as he left. And when she got the call from him, she had already strangled them.
She wasted no time, apparently.
She didn't ask for help. She didn't say, oh my God, what have I done? She's a nurse. She didn't go down and try to do CPR and help them. No, she lied. She stayed calm. She presented herself as normal. She had complete control over her behavior and her emotions. She had a normal conversation with him because she didn't want him coming home, because she needed to finish her plan. She still had to kill herself.
Wow.
So why did she do it? Defense would have you believe that a mother who was this good, who loved her kids this much, which we're not denying, would never harm her kids this way unless she was so mentally ill that she was hearing these command voices and had no choice. But that's not the world we live in. Dr. Resnick told you, most women who kill their children do it in child abuse. Most women who kill their children don't do it because of mental illness. Mothers kill their children, and it's horrible and it's awful, but it happens. So why did she specifically do it? She was depressed. She was exhausted. She was done. She didn't want to try anymore. She felt damaged. But those kids were her protective factor. Those kids were keeping her from ending her misery.
Wow.
And so
Yo, it looks like I lost even my mod, man. OB is supporting this lady. Oh, my God. Oh, God.
Oh my God.
This is crazy. Oh, my gosh. One more time.
Oh my God.
You're going to be heartbroken tomorrow, OB. She going to jail. But my question is for you guys, though. What is the outcome that you want? For the people who support her, I want to hear it in the chat. Remember, this is a safe space. We don't shame people here. I'm going to debate with you. Obviously, that's why you're here. I'm going to debate with you. I'm going to tell you my mind, give you a piece of my mind. But this is a safe space to disagree, of course, So my question is, what do you guys want to see? Like, is the outcome that you're looking for not guilty? Like, you'd like for her to be free, to be wheeled out of the courtroom and say, yes, I did it, I'm free, and then go live her life? What are you looking for? Are you looking for her to be sentenced to a mental health institution? Are you looking for her to be found guilty but to get a lighter sentence? I'm curious, what is the outcome that people who support her are looking for? Obviously, if you don't support her, you want her to go to jail for the rest of her life. I do. Those 3 lives must be avenged, and part of justice is vengeance. That's in Criminal Justice 101. Part of it is vengeance. Then you have rehabilitation. You also have deterrence and all that stuff. We're going back to college when it comes to criminal justice majors, right? But vengeance is a part of it. Retribution. They don't use the word vengeance. The word that they use in the professorial world is retribution, right? So I want retribution. I want those 3 kids to be avenged and to get justice by mommy having to go to prison, to a penitentiary, to give penance for what she's done to these children, either wittingly or unwittingly, right? That's justice for me. That's me personally, what I feel justice is. What is justice for some of you? Let's keep going.
she had to remove the protective factor. And I'm not saying she was happy about it. I'm saying that it was what she had to do to end her misery. But it was a choice. It was a choice. She could have kept trying. She could have, moved down to her mother's. She could have killed herself and left her kids alive. But it was a choice to take them with her.
Wow.
It was a horrible choice. And it's a choice that we don't want to think about that a mother could make, because that doesn't make us feel safe or comfortable in this world. But it's a choice she made.
All right, now just to be realistic with you guys understand in America, if you're sentenced to a mental health institution, for the vast majority of states, and we're talking about like 40 something out of 50, you will have the opportunity to be released if the clinicians there believe you to now be stable. And you understand that lawfully, if these clinicians feel like they get you to a point where you're now medicated, stable, and able to function in society, they have to let you go. So for those of you who are saying you wanted to go to a mental health institution, you understand that that is not a life sentence. That could be anywhere from a couple of years to maybe a decade or two, for all we know. But at some point, she's going to be allowed to be let go. And if this was some type of postpartum situation, and she now no longer has children, obviously she excised herself of that burden, because it certainly was a burden to her, then she's not going to be psychotic anymore, which means that after a couple of years in this hospital setting, she's going to be released. And also, I want you to understand that I started my career out, it's almost like I've done everything, right? But please do understand, I have a varied career. I've done a lot of cool shit, right? I got to curse when I say it because it's the truth. I've done a lot of cool shit. It's a fact. I started my career out as a safety and security officer with the Office of Mental Health and Hygiene for New York State. I worked in a mental health asylum as a security officer. That's how I started my law enforcement career. And it's a much different setting. I went from that to corrections. It's a much different setting than corrections. Even before you're ever released, you get day passes. So understand that there's going to be, in a few years, in 2 to 3 to 5 years, she's still going to be technically incarcerated at a mental health institution, but she's going to be able to go home to her family for Thanksgiving. She'll be able to go home for Christmas. She'll be able to go home for 4th of July. She'll be able to go some shopping trips. First, it's going to be supervised. Then it'll be unsupervised. Then she'll be able to leave and come back before 10 o'clock. This is long before officially she's released. So if you look her up, it's going to say she's still incarcerated at the Marymount Psychiatric Hospital. I just made that up. But technically, if you actually looked into what's happening to her, she has freedoms that she would not have had if she was incarcerated in a actual prison. So when you say you want her to go to the mental health institution, I'm not trying to change your mind, but I do want to educate you on what exactly that means. She's not going to be locked away in some asylum with a schmuck on like this. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. All right. I worked in one of those systems. As it should be, it's very humane. Cable television, nice rooms, nice grounds, freedom to roam the grounds, because you're not a criminal. You're not a criminal. You're mentally insane. It's a big difference in designation. All right, let's keep going. Just wanted to paint that picture for you.
She knew it was wrong because she sent Patrick out to do it. She could conform her behavior because she waited until he was gone and didn't tell him what was going on those phone calls, didn't call 911 for help, didn't lock herself in a bathroom upon hearing this voice. She knew it was wrong. She didn't take advantage of this situation. She created this situation, this opportunity to do what she wanted. And when she woke in the hospital, and she knew she was alive and the kids weren't, she knew what she did was wrong. She said she felt horrified. And then, while still with a tube in her throat, she's asking, do I have a lawyer? And it's not what defense said. It was after surgery and she's delirious. Look at the records. She had surgery on the 27th. She's asking if she has a lawyer on the 26th. Do I have a lawyer? Because she knows what she did was wrong. And then we get the justification, the excuse of the voice. And there are a few reasons why the voice doesn't make sense. The first is she immediately obeyed it. Dr. Resnick, their expert, the one who knows everything about postpartum psychosis, he teaches other psychiatrists and psychologists. He writes books and chapters and articles about how this is a huge red flag if someone immediately obeys a voice. You heard him talk about Andrea Yates, about how she heard voices to kill her children for months. And what did she do? She committed herself 5 times. She tried to kill herself twice to avoid harming her children. But it said that was all accurate.
Let's move on from that.
Lindsay Clancy hears his voice one time and does it. Doesn't try to lock herself in the bathroom, call Patrick, call 911. Doesn't try to leave. Leaving little children alone for 20, 30 minutes, not the greatest option, but it's better than killing them. She doesn't try any tactics to avoid the voice. She just obeys. Another red flag that Resnick was asked about and teaches and writes about is that she only heard the voice one time. She never heard it before, and she hasn't heard it since. So how that works. It's a red flag that she's making up the voice. Another one is that what she said the voice told her isn't consistent. At the hospital, she says the voice said, you have to kill your children so you can kill yourself because they'll suffer without you. What she tells a lot of the doctors is, it says, this is your last chance, you have to kill the kids so you can kill yourself. And then she tells the chaplain, a third version, you have to kill the kids so you can kill yourself because they're in danger. There's these 3 different versions. Another red flag, it doesn't make sense that the voice, she's saying the voice says all these different things.
All right, so people are upset that the lawyer basically called out that the first thing she asked for was a lawyer inside of the hospital. Understand that opening statements and closing statements is not evidence, and you do have the leeway to give your opinion on how you feel about a person's actions. All right, this is the place for it, not during the trial. She probably could not say that during the trial, but she certainly can say that. Her feelings, her belief is that by asking for an attorney right when you wake up in the hospital or at some point in the hospital, as she described, to her is like, hey, that's guilty. So it is not unconstitutional for her to say that. It's not improper, nor is it immoral or unprofessional. This is the place for her to make these type of statements, just to educate you guys on how this works.
And then the fourth thing that doesn't make sense about the voice is that it's vague in its command. It doesn't tell her how to kill the kids, where, with what, nothing. It says kill the kids so you can kill yourself. So she had to choose where, the basement. She had to choose how, strangulation. She had to choose with what, exercise ban. Choose again, exercise ban. Choose again, exercise ban. She had to choose how to kill herself. Now, if you're being compelled by this voice and you have no free will whatsoever, you're just your body's acting on the voice, why wouldn't you just kill yourself the same way you killed the children? You strangled them, you hang yourself. That's acting on compulsion, that's no choice. She tried 3 different ways. And none of them similar to what happened to the kids. And I'll take this other quarter now and explain to you why we got into the superficial.
You don't have to agree with me. I mean, are you an attorney? I'm not an attorney. I just been in 1,000 trials. So you said you went all the way through grad school, OG, but unless you've sat in 1,000 trials, I don't know how you know more. But hey, believe whatever you want. I'm not defending her. You know, I'm a big advocate for the Constitution. I'm the one saying that Carmelo Anthony should get a new trial because I think that what happened between that gentleman's agreement was unconstitutional. Even though Carmelo is guilty, I feel like he had a bad trial. I'm just telling you what I see. So don't be throwing your degrees at me, because I got practical experience and a degree.
Reality of the wounds and why we got into the height of the window and why we got into how she didn't take enough pills to actually kill herself. We're not saying she didn't want to kill herself. We're talking about that third prong of suicidality that Dr. Satoff talked about. Remember, he talked about aloneness and feeling burdensome, but that third category, capability. She wanted to kill herself, but her natural instinct to live was fighting against that. So she took pills, but you heard the toxicologists, they were all at therapeutic levels or below, except the Seroquel, which was a little elevated. She cut herself, but you saw the cuts on the meaty part of her arm horizontally. No arteries, no major blood vessels. Didn't need to be stitched the next day. The one on her neck didn't need to be stitched at all. She knew as a nurse those weren't going to kill her, but she was trying. And then going out of the window, 12, 13 feet, and she landed the wrong way and ended up paralyzed on the frozen ground. But, you know, the idea that falling out of a 12-foot window is going to definitely kill you, not necessarily. And so she wanted to, she was trying in all these different ways, but she just couldn't get over that third prong, the capability of actually killing herself. And that goes against it being a voice. Because if she's compelled to do it, if this voice is making her do it, she would just do it. There would be no fight. There would be no struggle. There would be no resistance to dying. But there was.
All right, this is really good. This is very interesting. It's almost over, guys. Somebody asked, how do we know that, all right, forget it. Whatever. But definitely go check out my videos on the Carmelo Anthony case. Once again, I think Carmelo is guilty. It's very, very sad. It's a tragedy for both sides, but that gentleman's agreement was immoral to me and deprived the jury of necessary information for them to make a decision, which I think probably would end up being a longer sentence for Carmelo. So really, he shouldn't even be he shouldn't even try to get an appeal, because most likely he's going to get a longer sentence if he gets a new trial. But once again, everything that we do have to be above board. And I think that a lot of the stuff that was done in Carmelo Anthony's trial was not above board. As far as what OG's saying, I'm not going to argue with you. It's all good. It's all love. You can believe whatever you want. We're all having a good time here. I'm not here to change your mind, people. I'm just here to give you my perspective. But please do believe whatever you want. We're adults here. You guys do whatever you want to do. All right, so it's almost over. Let's keep going.
I guess the third one is Dr. Zeisel. We've never said that he told the defendant what to say. Not one witness, not one piece of evidence. The only person that said that Dr. Zeisel, that we were trying to say Dr. Zeisel told her to make up the voice, is defense counsel. He's the only one that asked about it. He's the only one that brought it up. We have never said that in this courtroom, and no witness has said that we've asked. She knew what she did was wrong. She could conform her behavior to the law and chose not to. And she didn't expect to have any consequences because she expected to die with her children. And we get to what we have to prove is that first degree is deliberate premeditation and extreme atrocity and cruelty. You know it was deliberate premeditation because of the way she killed them and the way they died. And the order also shows a rationality. The order she killed them in. Because Cora and Dawson are older. If she had tried to strangle one in front of the other, they would have known this is bad. And they would have tried to intervene or run and hide. And she had a very limited time. She didn't have time to try to find a child who ran off and hid. So taking Dawson first and moving him to a separate room,
Oh,
having
boy.
Cora stay with Callan and having Dawson go in another room, that's rational. That
That's
makes sense.
crazy.
That's ordered thinking. And we didn't show you that post that she made about Dawson being a handful and not being compliant to show she was a bad mom. We showed it to you because it proves she knew that he was a handful. She knew that he was less likely to be compliant, to just go along. She knew that he might struggle. And so it made sense rationally to remove him and separate him first and kill him first. And she brought him into that room, into the office.
Damn, so
She
sad.
closed the door, and she wrapped that band around his little neck. And she squeezed until he was unconscious.
Wow.
As the blood's pooling in his face and causing those blood vessels to burst, causing him
Now,
pain.
oh my God,
and
I'm sorry.
Hey guys, thanks
panic
so
and
much for checking.
confusion.
I'm so sorry, guys. I want you guys to listen to what she's saying. For those of you guys who are able to listen to this, I described to you, because I've never watched this before, I described to you what happens to a person when they're being asphyxiated. And she's describing it exactly the same way, because that's exactly what happened. We're all humans. Our bodies are going to react similarly to that type of trauma. Listen to this. So you guys will see exactly the way I explained it to you guys is how she's explaining it now. It's very sad stuff.
Handful. She knew that he was less likely to be compliant, to just go along. She knew that he might struggle. And so it made sense rationally to remove him and separate him first and kill him first. And she brought him into that room, into the office, and closed the door, and she wrapped that band around his little neck. And she squeezed until he was unconscious. As the blood's pooling in his face and causing those blood vessels to burst, causing him pain and panic and confusion. And defense calls Dr. La Posada to say, no, it wasn't 20 or 30 seconds. It was only 5 or 10 seconds until he went unconscious. I'm sorry, how many seconds is it okay for them to have been in pain and panic and confusion? How about it wasn't okay for 1 second for any of those children to feel that? And they all felt it, all for up to 30 seconds. And then she continued strangling their limp bodies for 1 to 2 minutes to make sure they were dead. Deliberate premeditation. And then extreme atrocity and cruelty. The indifference that she showed to their pain, to their struggle, to their suffering, leaving them there on the floor with the bands around their necks, completely indifferent, because she had a plan and she was following it through. Just think of that. The being strangled and the pain and the confusion that they're going through, and it's being done by their mom. Their mom is the one that's hurting them. Their mom is the one that's killing them. That's extreme atrocity and cruelty. She didn't see them in that moment as individual human beings with rights, with dreams, with futures, individually belonging to them. You heard about the 3 kids. Cora wanted to be a doctor and a mom.
Oh boy.
Dawson wanted to be a firefighter. Callan never got the chance to dream. Who knows what future he would have dreamed for himself.
He said he never even had a chance to dream. Oh my God. Oof.
Oh my God.
Boy.
She killed them, and she left them there on the floor with the bands around their necks. She didn't bring them up to their beds and put them with their favorite stuffed animal and cover them up gently and lovingly, leaving them peacefully there. No. She left them.
Everybody just care about the mother. What about the kids? Ugh.
Discarded on the
I'm going to throw up after this live. I'm disgusted.
basement floor like broken toys because she was done playing the game. You know to a moral certainty. She is guilty.
Wow. Man, I appreciate you guys for joining me today. Wow. I mean, that was insane. That was nuts, man. I don't know. The defense is kind of flat for a while. It would be unfair to say. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a great attorney, amazing attorney. I'm sure he did an amazing job throughout the trial. I popped in for a little bit, seen a little bit of his stuff, and he did a good job. It's unfair for me to say that his closing was not good because we didn't listen to the whole thing. He still had like 20 minutes left before we switched to the prosecution, but the 30 minutes that we watched together was very flat. The prosecution, I felt, was a little bit better, and the fact pattern is very sad, very, very sad. I just feel like a lot of people here have experienced similar traumas to what this young woman felt, and so I just feel like you guys are empathizing with her just a little unhealthily, and I'm going to be honest with you because I love you. I'm sorry. Some of the comments that I'm seeing in the comment section is surprising to me. And it's sad because at the end of the day, we're forgetting about the victims, forgetting about 3 young children that were murdered. And it doesn't matter how they were murdered or what circumstances caused their murder. They're gone. Those innocent souls are gone. Think about the trauma they felt when the person, that they loved more than anything in this world, slowly took their breath away. Slowly took their breath away. And so I implore you, please do not forget about the victims. Don't lose your humanity because you may have had similar circumstances where you struggled with mental illness and you had postpartum and this, that, and you are not her. You did not kill your kids, otherwise you would not be watching this show right now because there's no podcasts allowed in jails. You're not her. Stop the toxic empathy. Empathize for the children. The children. Because nobody contests that Lindsay is the one that killed them. Nobody, not her attorney, not the prosecution, nobody. Her defense attorney just told us she killed the kids, not the husband, not the brother, the cousin, the brother, the aunt of the friends and the friend's friends. She killed them. We're arguing over the semantics of why. Was it mental illness? Was it the drugs? Was it this? Was it that? But at the end of the day, she killed the kids. She killed the kids. And I'm not hearing people say she killed them and I want her to get help. I'm hearing that very rarely. I'm hearing people say they want her to get off. They want her to go free. And that is troubling for me. It's troubling because what about the kids, the victims? So you could be a legal beagle and have issues with how the trial went. Okay, that's nothing wrong with that. I'm a student of the law too. I love the law. I'm with you. I'm always looking for holes in the case, like we found holes in the Carmelo Anthony case. I'm always looking for that. I'm willing to concede, even though I think somebody's guilty. I'm willing to say, hey, they deserve a fair shake, just like I want her to get a fair shake. But the rhetoric is toxic. It's toxic rhetoric, and I'm going to call it out. YouTubers are not going to call it out because they want your clicks and views, and they want you to pay for their Patreons, and they want you to enrich them with the memberships and all this extra stuff. They want your money. I don't care about your money. I get up every day and I go to work, and that's how I pay my bills. When I come on this platform, I'm going to be true to myself. I'm going to be honest with you as the audience, and I'm going to call you out when you need to be called out. It's toxic. For some of you, not all. It's beyond whether this is a fair trial or whether she should go to a mental health institution. Those are reasonable. I heard people say that in the chat. Whether I agree with you or not, you're reasonable. There are some people who have allowed this to make them lose their humanity, that they literally want this woman to go free. It's troublesome. I'm going to ask you, please take a step back. Take a step back, meditate, and don't forget about the kids. That's all I got to say about that. It's just my opinion. What does it mean? Absolutely nothing. You take what you want from it, you throw the rest away. It's your life. It's your morality. You guys have a great day. I might come back and do another show tonight. It'll be a late show. We'll see you guys on the next one, man. You guys be well. Strategic is out of here. Peace.